Welcome to another episode of our Wyckoff Crypto Discussion. I am Alessio Rutiliano, and as usual, today we'll explore the crypto market through the lens of the Wyckoff method. First of all, thank you very much for your kind feedback. Feel free to leave your comment below. We'll be happy to discuss your trading ideas and suggestions. This information is only for educational purpose, as is not an investment recommendation. Please stop the video and read the disclaimer. So in the last episode, we have seen signs of absorption of Bitcoin, contraction of volatility to the downside, decrease in volume and signs of demand on the intraday were suggesting a rally, at least in the short term. We have had that rally, 4 consecutive up bars, but in the last few days, profit-taking is occurring in both the S&P and many crypto assets. So the profit-taking in the crypto space is more evident on small caps and very speculative crypto assets, while Bitcoin is still holding here, and the selling activity has not broken any significant level of support yet. But before studying the current reaction in depth, I think that the most important message for today is what's the current environment. And the Wyckoff method is so valuable, not just because it helps us to define the structure of the market. That's just the first layer. The Wyckoff method also suggests us what kind of texture and character we can expect in a specific phase of a trading range. So let's focus on the S&P for a moment. The S&P is still in phase B of a major consolidation. And phase B is generally marked by an increase of volatility in both directions. And I think that especially intraday traders should be aware of this concept. Phase B is generally an insidious place where many intraday traders, attracted by a high volatility, enter the market with a specific bias in mind based on the most recent price action. And then they are whipsawed several times. So I want to stress this concept because I know that many intraday traders are following the Wyckoff crypto discussion. And as Roman says, context is the king. And this is true for both intraday traders and campaigners. That said, you can benefit from the current volatility using short-term tactics, and we will show many examples today. So, Roman, in your opinion, what are the most important price levels to watch on both the S&P and Bitcoin in the next few days?
Well, obviously, the levels of the resistance are going to be extremely important, as the levels of the support as well. So you are confined within the boundaries of this, two levels. And I wanted to, talk about a little bit about tactics, right? Because imagine if you are already in a position, and let's say that your point of entry was somewhere here. What do you do now? And obviously, you have some profitability, so you're not going to sell the position here. You want to see some kind of resolution. Is this resolution a continuation, or is this resolution going back into the support level? And in either case, you still, if I would be having this position, I still would be holding this position. If your entry is here or here, kind of the same scenarios. So you have to wait and see what's going to be the next move. Obviously, as Alessio was saying, we're seeing some profit taken, so a very logical capitulation bar, of stop in action type of bar after the period of absorption in the S&P suggests that we're going to have some kind of reaction, and we are in that reaction, and we're seeing that supply slightly increasing. So the key is going to be, is it going to hold at this level? This level was important to overcome around this area, and now as we did, we are reacting right into this level. So that's the biggest question. If we're going to break that and we're going to go to the support again, then I wonder how Bitcoin is going to react to that. Is it going to hold, or is it actually going to do kind of like the same thing and break some of the support levels? All right, let's look at the intraday.
Yes, on the intraday, supply has emerged in the last few days on Bitcoin, and now we are currently testing the previous high. So there is a local increase of supply and volatility here in this small trading range, a principle in a principle. But if price holds here, we could expect at least a retest of the high of the small range, and then even to the 12 grand key level. So if we fail here, the support trend line would be a natural place to revisit. So as we have said before, we are still in phase B, and we have to be very, very tactical. And how many times it happens to us to see a first uptrust, then supplies absorb the gain, short-term sellers capitulate on the way up until a second final uptrust comes. I think that would be a very interesting scenario, Roman.
Right. Another thing here, Alessio, and as you were saying, I was looking at the structure and I was thinking, well, look at this. If we are holding, that's great. But if we are failing this, then there is definitely a little bit more pressure on both S&P and therefore Bitcoin as well for a much more significant move to the downside. And I think we should be very aware of this. You know, whenever we discuss our analysis, we always want to build up both scenarios, bullish and bearish. So therefore, I want you guys to start thinking in terms of like scenarios. Okay, well, what is the bullish scenario? What is the scenario for, let's say, a trading range, how it might unfold? And then what would be the scenario for the most bearish type of movement? All right, let's jump to the next one. So observations around the whole crypto world. So Alessio, what are you seeing here?
Yes, here we see the major crypto indexes, and Bitcoin is still outperforming the rest of the market. So let's focus on the price action of the last week, highlighted in the yellow box. Bitcoin has made a high compared to the shitcoin index. Also, notice that this rally has been followed by a flat reaction, while the shit perp and the mid perp have more structural weakness. And even though the selling that has come on the mid cap and low cap indexes is not very aggressive, the big structure, especially on the shit perp on the top, shows poor lift, lower highs, demand is poor. And very often these structures with lower highs resolves into a final spring, a climatic event where weekends capitulate and value buyers comes in. And I think that this chart leads us to a model that I've published in the last week on the crypto report, and we'll discuss it shortly. But before that, Roman, what do you see on this chart?
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning, the last week's action, you know, from the time that, you know, we recorded the last session, right? So, Alessio, I believe we were recording it somewhere here, right?
Yes.
So look at the rise of this rally. Do we have demand here? I would say probably a very weak demand. Look at how demand signature is more active in this area, let's just say. Do we have it on other assets like mid caps? Yeah, we're taking off. There is some demand. So this rally looks to be, you know, like more dynamic. But then there is a loss of momentum. So there is no buying or active buying or aggressive buying in this area right here. And that obviously produces this sagging, you know, this weakness where supply is invited to come to the market, you know, and produce some kind of move to the downside. So it just seems to me that, and on Bitcoin as well, you know, like there is really not a lot of demand, but it's a little bit better. So as Alessa has mentioned in the prior videos, there is some kind of flight to safety, flight to quality. I think that's why Bitcoin is outperforming. I think we've mentioned this multiple times. Supply comes in, supply. We are holding here just because, you know, Bitcoin is not being sold against other assets, crypto assets, just because of that safety characteristics, you know, capsize characteristics as well. But we could definitely come back to the area of where demand initially showed up, and this means that we might actually fall a little bit further down before we start going up. But obviously, we need to see if, in the reactions, in the current reactions that we see, if we're going to have some kind of reversal. If reversal happens faster, earlier, then would we overcome the points of the resistance? And I think that the key, Alessio, is going to be, this demand at the beginning of the rally. All right, let's go to the next one.
So this is the chart that I have published on the last crypto report. And this is just a scenario. And my intention here is not to predict the market. The current formation could evolve in thousands of different ways, and the structure of the S&P in the election period will be the key. We can have a higher low, a lower low. This is not the idea behind this chart. And what I want to really stress in this chart is the switch from the risk-off to risk-on environment. We have seen that the majority of the crypto assets are still underperforming Bitcoin, and this is a sign that crypto markets are still in risk-off mode. And what happens very often is that speculative assets in crypto land start to outperform Bitcoin in the second half of a major consolidation, if this consolidation is a reaccumulation. And if we are still in phase B of a prolonged trading range, our job here is to watch for that switch of the outperformance that's so important for speculators. Currently, we have seen just some value buying in many crypto assets. Only once we see a persistent outperformance switch, we can say that the animal spirits, as Bruce says, are entering the market. What are your thoughts on this chart, Roman?
Well, I absolutely love your scenarios. I absolutely love the message that this slide gives us, and that is, don't predict. And even though it seems like we're trying to predict here what kind of movement might potentially happen, it's not about that. We are contemplating about what might happen. And if the market is showing us something different, then we're going to assume that whatever scenario have failed, it has a failed signal. And usually failed signals are the best signals in the technical analysis. So just contemplate about that idea. But in terms of this particular scenario, where we are, touching the resistance and then having some kind of reaction, let's say going into the election in the US, I think it's very interesting. And I would agree with the risk-off, risk-on parameters here. If we were to continue a major uptrend, then the risk-on is going to come after some kind of final retest. So I'm liking this a lot, and just obviously a suggestion is to develop multiple scenarios and just to see which one is going to unfold. And it just allows you to mentally be prepared for anything that market throws at you.
So let's see now some outperformer. So this is Binance Coin. What we see here, huge leadership on the way up, oversold, extremely oversold, and then a quick recovery. And Binance Coin is still holding in this day. So we see a lot of strength of this asset. I think it's very interesting, and we have, I think that we can even test the high, the all-time high of this cryptocurrency right here. What do you think, Roman?
Yeah, I'm really liking it. I mean, on the background of all of the charts that we went through today in the cryptos, this looks very attractive. I like the definitions that Alessio have put here on the slide. So a climactic action, small trading range, which is defined by the distributional bias, major sign of weakness, LPSY, and we're still in the downtrend, but the conclusion of this oversold condition clearly shows stop in action, which happens around the trading range, or the previous trading range. So that makes a lot of logical sense. Because this is an oversold condition, a very quick trading range in duration with phase C and phase be kind of collapsing just because of that, oversold condition. And then we go back into the value zone, which was here. And then we are consolidating, but look how the nature of consolidation is slightly different. Starts with the change of behavior on the increased supply, suggesting a trading range environment, and then the next rally right away shows promise. And then the next reaction changes the texture, changes the supply signature. And then the much flatter reaction suggests that now we're going to go and break out. And look at the breakout itself. It happens on the increased demand signature. So it's a valid breakout. And after that, we are in the flat formation again. So I think Alessio's idea of the retest of the resistance is quite prudent here. So let's just see if it's going to happen. My only concern is the market overall, because the market has a lot of gravity. And, I'm using the physics semantics here, but think about the market as kind of like the big mass that could influence even the leadership at any given point. So the question here, even though the bias is up, the question here is, could it not be influenced by the market if the market is going to go lower? So that's the only concern that I would be having here on this slide.
So another outperformer, or this last 3 weeks, and Monero, I think it's very important to see that supply tail that we see on the top of the current price action. We see a lot of supply right there, so we want to see at least a test of that price action. Maybe that now the price is going to revisit that high, and I would be very careful right here, because we are in a trading range, and that supply tail invalidates the price action of the last weeks. What are your thoughts on this price action?
Yeah, I really like your thoughts here, Alicia, on the emergence of the supply. So looking at this bar right here, it's kind of hard to see the structures like this. So it was opened, then a lot of buying, and then selling into the close. So we kind of see how the intraday day unfolded, and that supply actually came, with a lot of aggression and produced that move down. So that is a big concern. And then looking at the structure that we have right now here, so it's going into the apex formation, and usually apex formations are going to have some kind of continuation characteristics that we could find, but some of the apexes after emergence of this supply are just what we call in the Wyckoff world a possible TP formation, where there are attempts to go up and then failure, and that failure starts a more meaningful downtrend. So I think that Alessio's concerns here are quite warranted.
So this is Theta, another great outperformer. And now we are currently in an apex formation. And look at the volume that I highlighted in black on the bottom of the chart. There is some supply that has emerged right on the top of this apex. And now we are testing the support. So this could be a very interesting place and for Theta, because we need to hold at this level, around this level. And what are your thoughts, Roman?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you are pointing our viewers' attention to this particular area where volume signature is increasing. So therefore, an upward effort is increasing. There is more increase in the force to push the price up, and yet look at the price action. What is the result of that price action? And obviously, result upward is diminishing. So this looks more bearish at that spot, and therefore that produces this reaction, which also is observing an increase in the supply signature. And I remember this chart from the last session, when we were discussing this. I think that we were somewhere here.
Yes, right there.
Yeah, so always come back and kind of like analyze it again. We were talking about this consolidation, and we were saying that because of this change of character, which is somewhat different than, let's say, in this area right here, we could expect the duration of the trading range to increase. And we're already there, so we're much longer, than the duration of the previous trading range. And also, the bias becomes a question, with that increased volatility and increased supply signature. I would be somewhat cautious here, and very tactical if you're already in the position. And if you're considering the position, would be considering short-term price swings first and then conversion into a much longer-term position. But yeah, Alessio, just kind of like this area right here, it seems to be problematic. All right, PNF.
Yes, we have discussed this asset in the Wyckoff Crypto Discussions number 4. You can see the blue arrow on the chart. And I find this chart very fascinating because PNF accounting is working very well on crypto assets, even on these very low caps. And look here, we have a reaccumulation structure that confirms the previous count. And now we have just reached the top, the target of this big reaccumulation structure. And yesterday we have seen some selling on the news that have been released for this startup. And I think that this is the point where Wyckoff says, look, stop, look, and listen. So your comments, Roman.
Yeah, beautiful chart and just a very appropriate discussion that we had, in session number 4. There was still quite a lot of potential here to go to the levels of the PNF objectives here. And well, I said, this just worked to almost perfection. Because when we are looking at the uptrend channel, we're looking for the price to go to our points of the objectives and create the conditions for the potential reversal and the change of behavior. What are those conditions? Well, we want to be in the overbought condition. We want to see the price overthrow the resistance lines of the up channel. And then after that, we want to see a change of behavior, which is going to be shown to us on the PNF chart as the columns of O's that are going to exceed any of the columns of O's prior in this whole uptrend since the low or since the last climactic run. So it's just a beautiful, to the perfection, execution here that you could have done on this particular trade. So just very well done. And I just want to comment about Alessio's work on the PNF. Wyckoff Analytics has a lot of PNF material. You could go and check out some of the free material and on-demand material as well. And then obviously, Alessio have converted this material to the crypto world because there are certain adjustments that you have to have and consider on the box size, on the reversal, and so on and so forth. So, Alessio's PNF charts make a lot of sense to me. Right? Let's go to the next PNF. Mm-hmm.
So this is Crypto.com, was one of the best performer this year. Unbelievable bull run. But now look at the high volatility in the final range on the distribution that we see on the top with that big uptrust. And now we are in a downtrend, an established downtrend. So I think that this cryptocurrency could be interesting for traders that are looking for opportunities to the downside. And I decided to upload this PNF chart because I think the structure is so clean on the PNF just for this.
Yeah, and I wonder, if you would take the vertical bar chart and we're looking at the PNF, how would you look at that, and how would you be comparing those two. And I totally agree with Alessio about the volatility. We're obviously seeing a much major change of character, change of behavior around this area right here. So this becomes the largest reaction that we've seen on the way up. And this is definitely, a very sustainable, almost vertical uptrend. So this is where caution should take place. And then obviously as we break out, and then on the next column of O's, we're negating almost all of the gains of that upthrust action. This is where we are receiving a confirmation that the bias is changing. The next confirmation comes with the lower high last point of supply, and then a much major confirmation comes after the break of the support area. And please note, Alessia put here upsloping structure, a major sign of weakness into the next rally, which is LPSY as well. A lot of value here for weak hands, so they're pushing the price up, trying to push it back into the trading range, and then look at how the failure happens on the increased supply signature. This is one of the tape reading techniques that I will be discussing in the upcoming sessions of the course, where we're taking the PNF and we're using the volume with PNF. And what the PNF and volume is together is just a visualization of the cumulative effort and cumulative result. Just because volatility is being diminished in the PNF and the volume is showing not just one day or one bar, it shows a collection of bars on the move up or on the move down. So just think about that. And yeah, there is definitely a lot of bearishness here, and there are some signs of the establishment of a downtrend.
So Wi-Fi, this is a request by one of our students, and please feel free to submit your request in the comment box on our YouTube channel. We'll be happy to discuss your assets. So looks like a potential spring, but in the current market structure, I would be very, very cautious. And we see a lot of volume of the bottom, but the lift is very, very minimal. And I think that it's possible even to see more downside for this asset if the market breaks the downside. And I would be very, very careful on Wi-Fi, Roman.
Yeah, it's just the height of the trading range is just so much. So you have that, increased volatility. And as Alyssa has said, you look at the rallies. What do? They start diminish in their quality and characteristics, and yet the volume is increasing right here. So, we could tactically be thinking here about a potential rally from here, from this point. So if you do that, I would be thinking more short term. Could we come to the point of the resistance? What is going to happen here? Are we going to overcome it, or are we just going to bounce up and then quickly come back? So this reminds me a lot of the low liquidity stocks that have been in a lot of bullish run-ups, and then they go into this prolonged consolidation that starts with the very, very big hype type of structure, and then as market participants are leaving this asset, then the price action becomes much smaller in terms of the volatility. So I'm on board with Alyssa's idea that we should be cautious here. All right, well, that's it for today, Alessio. Your final comments, final remarks?
Well, it's been a great pleasure to discuss the current market with you, Roman. And so let's look. This is a phase B. So the message is to our traders is please be careful. And this is a very difficult spot to trade, but just apply the Wyckoff logic and you will be safe.
Sounds great. And as usual, leave us any comments under the video. We do read those. Alessio does answer those. So if you have any comments or requests, yeah, please go ahead. Thank you guys, and We'll talk to you next week.